All right, we are running a little bit late, but not as late as normal, so I think it's time to get started.
Woo! Hell yeah! Party on! Welcome to the Fun Interactive Podcast. Woo!
All right, let's back up and restart. That was not what I was ready for. That is not okay.
I am super excited actually about tonight's special guest. Tonight's special guest is one of the first guests we've ever had on the podcast who probably has insightful things to say.
That's not true. We've had Bethesda employees on. We've had Magic, um, you know, Pro Tour players on. We've had Griffin on.
All right, so Arkham Warlock, please tell us how you feel about the Punisher.
The Punisher. Wow. First off, that would actually qualify. I would have to qualify by seeing that.
Well, okay, so welcome to Arkham Warlock is his online handle. This is the guy who runs those amazing surveys, who goes out all the time. Welcome to the show, man. We're super happy to have you here. We've been talking about having you on for a long time.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm very excited to talk about the latest survey that I just ran.
Yeah,
Sweet.
If people aren't familiar, Warlock's been doing surveys for the Legends community for a long time. This was not the first survey. Specifically, though, because I know, but I don't think other people know, why don't you talk about your background in surveys and analytics? Because I'm a data guy, like I work in data analytics during the day, and so whenever I get to hear somebody else nerd out about stuff and talk about it, it gets me excited. So why don't you tell people about your edumacation?
Sure. So I actually graduated with my master's degree in basic and applied social psychology and evaluation in 2016. And part of that psychology degree included a very rigorous statistics gauntlet, which paired with that, I also had some courses dealing specifically with survey methodology. And throughout the course of all of this, I had tried my best to kind of integrate the things that I was learning about research methods with games. One of the earliest survey projects that I did was actually developing a scale for assessing sexist aggression in first-person shooter environments using Destiny as a platform.
Oh, wow.
That was a lot of fun to do. We got some kind of inconclusive results just because, we were just starting out. We were just learning all of this. So, not everything was carried out perfectly, but it was a great first start. And it really got me thinking, it's like, I could do this for a living.
I got to ask you a question. So yesterday on the ladder, I played against a guy named Red Pillar.
Oh, boy.
I'm curious if you think that there's more sexist aggression amongst online card players or online shooter players.
That's an interesting question. If just for the fact that when you're playing against somebody in most games, you have some line of communication with them. In a lot of games, like MMOs, for example, you're going to have some kind of like general chat or instant message function where you can communicate in full sentences between one another. Card games are interesting because identities and intentions when you're speaking are actually a little ambiguous because, like in Legends, for example, we really only have, hello, good game. What was it? I think, didn't Hearthstone eventually get rid of their threaten emote? I think they actually had that one. Or was it the sorry?
I think it was sorry.
Yeah, they got rid of sorry and they replaced it with something else. I don't know what. But so I think that perceived aggression definitely goes up in card games because the full message isn't being communicated because the person who's receiving the message actually sits there and ruminates. It's like, oh, well, this guy with the wood elf emote is sitting there spamming "prepare to die," and what does that mean? It's like, does this guy really want me to have a bad day? Is he like really proud of this trump card that he's about to drop? What's happening?
Right.
So,
that's a really interesting line of thought. Yeah,
I would actually, this might shock some people, I actually think that there probably is more just baseline aggression in digital card games than there are shooters. Most
You think
shooters
so?
have some sort of like team format, right? And
Yeah.
there's at least some level of like social interaction that occurs there. It might not be great, don't get me wrong. You know, everybody is, you know, sleeping with everybody else's mothers and so on and so forth, but there is at least like some level of interaction, whereas a lot of card players fall, you know, sadly, stereotypically, into a little more antisocial personalities, and you're not getting that level of interaction. And I mean, think about it. You know, on Reddit or on the forums or whatever, there's a lot of posts about people who are like, "Does anybody else get like really angry when they play this game?"
Yeah.
Um,
No, I mean, I can relate to that anger actually. I mean, and like I'm a pretty chill guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, but like there was a stream like last week where I said "fuck you" and I flipped off the screen while I was playing, and
Yeah.
like I wasn't like you know I wasn't aggressive, but like in the moment I was
Well,
pissed.
sure, but it's just one of those like if I'm playing a shooter, right, and I'm playing
Yeah,
with my buddies or whatever, and something happens, like you
yeah,
can kind of like argue it out right there, you know, like you do your trash talk, you get it off your chest, and then you're done. But like with card games, like it's just a mental spiral, right? Like it's I don't know,
that's
it's
fair.
different.
Legends is also. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of card game experience, but I do know that in Legends, frequently you've lost before you've lost. Like,
Yes.
and you have some time to think about this. You know, and let's say let's say for instance you're a guy who records videos for YouTube, and so sometimes you have to stick these things out in case something interesting happens that you know you want to put online. So you sit there then for another 5 minutes after you've lost the game, but you're still playing the game, you know, and that it can grate down on you.
Yeah. You know, another interesting thing too about having to communicate through a card game is that it's very much an action that you have to self-select to do. Like you really have to elect to do this. You have to go look up your match history, find that person's username, add them after the fact, and then type out your angry message. So like if you're really bent enough
Yeah.
to do this, then
Yeah, and think about how often that happens, right? Like that's why I would lean towards card games as potentially just having, I don't know, more anger. Maybe not maybe aggression's the wrong word, but definitely more anger, I think.
Do you think there's something about the nature of card games that specifically attracts people with maybe like a less diverse set of social coping skills?
I wouldn't know. That's sort of more of in like the personality aspect of psychology, and I tend to,
Yeah,
with my research, I tend to focus more on like in the moment, like state emotive qualities at the time. So
fair enough. Actually, this is the form of psychology that I specialize in, but I don't have an answer.
I mean, here's what
To
I'll
be fair,
pose to you, Justin.
I'm only a year and a half through my graduate
Yeah,
program.
here's what I'll pose to you, Justin. Go to, because you're in a big city, right? So I'm sure you've got like more than one
Yeah.
comic and gaming shop there. Go to
Yeah.
like 3,
Yeah.
look around, and tell me what you see, and then send me some DMs on Twitter, and I'll laugh about it later.
That's fair. Actually, when I built that cube for QuakeCon, I had spent like 3 hours at a fucking gaming store, which was more time than I've. Well, no, I mean I played a couple Magic tournaments over the years, like sealed events and drafts and stuff. But there were 3 people working there, and they were all helping me find this cube because it was just like full of like super fucking esoteric cards that they had to like dig for. I mean, you saw the cube; it was awful.
Yeah.
But like intentionally so. But yeah,
I mean, as somebody who did really well in that draft, I think it was fine.
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. But one of the guys seemed just like a dude, you know, just like the kind of guy that I would meet in any sort of like professional environment that I would find myself in. Real chill to talk to, and like didn't mind having a basically 3 hour kind of like spotty conversation with this guy. The other 2 guys, one of them kept leering at Sandra and saying vaguely inappropriate things, and the other one like just felt like it seemed like was really really like anxious whenever I tried to engage him in some kind of like conversation. So yeah, that kind of fits. That makes sense. The one guy was real cool though.
Yeah,
But I'm not gonna go back to that store though because of the one dude.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few of us. You know, I worked at a comic and gaming store for a long time, and
Yeah.
I was definitely the weird one. So before
No,
we,
we've hung out before in social situations. You're not weird and awkward.
oh, I'm definitely weird and awkward.
You're weird.
I
You're
create
weird,
the
but,
weird
like,
and awkward situations.
It's like idiosyncratic, right? Like in the same way that like I'm kind of weird, right? But like we're not like
Yeah.
difficult to approach.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
So before we dive into the results, there's one last thing. I know we mentioned it a few times before, but now that he's here, how do you feel, Charles, about being the first ever guest who bought their way onto the podcast?
That is true.
Oh, all right. So
This is our way of saying
laundry
thank you, by
tonight.
the way. This is their way of saying thank you.
Yeah, we have to give you credit while you're here tonight, because first of all, the coolest letter I've ever received as a result of Legends, and an amazing gift. There was never any question how we were going to repay you, and we just, I mean, besides the podcast thing, which is kind of really more just like torture, but you know, like, I mean, it was so incredibly cool of you, and like it breaks my heart actually we didn't get to hang out there together.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say Zenkarn in chat. Yes, you can buy your way on. Send me a DM.
It was definitely a little heartbreaking personally that I didn't get to go to PAX West, because that was also going to be the first like big gaming convention that I was going to get to go to with my wife.
Mhm.
But you know, as soon as I got the news that we weren't going to be able to afford the travel tickets to get up there, I was like, I can turn this into a positive experience. And so, you know, went to Twitter. You were the first one that popped up, and I was like, yeah, absolutely. Here you go. Boom.
Well, thank you very much, man. It was really sweet. Mr. Warlock here sent us both these really cool letters, along with PAX badges to PAX West, and that's how we got in. And so we paid him back. Do you want to tell him what you sent him, Charmer?
I mean, I've been pretty public about it. I gave him one of the artifact beta keys.
Yeah. And I didn't know if you had been, because I actually had never told anyone what I did with mine.
Well, I don't. Yeah, yours is. Yeah. No. It was more than well deserved. So.
Sweet.
It was the least I could do.
Well, I'm very excited to try that out whenever closed beta happens officially. But I will say I'm a little, I don't want to say intimidated, but I've seen some gameplay of Artifact, and it's like, whoa. So someone said hold my beer and made a third lane.
Yeah, I've played a little Artifact, and it's very, very, very complicated.
Yeah, it's. Justin and I have said it a bit. It's very different from Legends. Like, all card games are competitors of each other. So, like, saying it's a full-on not a competitor is untrue. But, like, for people who are looking for a specific style of game, like if style matters to you, then Artifact is just not a competitor for Legends. They play wildly different. Artifact in many ways almost feels more like a board game to me than a card game when I play it. I'm not saying the cards don't matter, but there's just a lot of like moving pieces and thinking ahead in a good way. Like I really enjoy it, but it's wildly different.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's like any card game, I feel like it's like Clank, Jesus. It's like Gwent. And I like Artifact and I dislike Gwent. So, what do you think about Gwent?
Me? I've played a little bit of it. Admittedly, that was several months ago. Back when it was first just going into, it went into open beta for a little while, didn't it? Before it suddenly and mysteriously vanished off the face of the earth.
Yeah, actually, I think people just stopped playing it.
Oh well. Well, I know that there was what was it? CD Projekt Red just sort of they sort of
Yeah.
hibernated for the summer, and we're like we're gonna come back with this after we've worked out some kinks.
I think they're actually re-releasing now with I think it's called Hand of the Gwent.
Yeah, I don't think that's a fair assessment. I enjoyed playing Gwent when I was playing it in the closed beta. I actually played a lot of it when it was in the closed beta. I made some videos for it on YouTube, but I found that it was the kind of game that I couldn't play for really long stretches. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I could pick it up and I could play a couple of games and I would be like, yeah, I had fun, but anything more than, I don't know, like between 3 to 5 in a row, especially because of the way that it's designed, it felt ultra repetitive. And I just need a little bit more variation in my life. I'm the kind of person that always says that I don't think that RNG is necessarily bad. I think there's a lot of really good forms of variance in RNG. Gwent almost... At parts of the closed beta, the decks were so consistent that it almost felt like chess. Like it was... Your card sequencing might vary between like 1 and 3 cards a game tops, and I just like I can't sit down and play chess for 4 hours straight without losing my mind. I'm just not wired. I enjoy chess and I can play a couple of games, but I can't do it for like 4 hours straight. And Gwent was the same way to me. It's a great game.
Yeah,
it's just not something.
Wait, no, it's not a great game. No.
I think it is. I think that it's got a lot of good things going for it, and I keep an eye on it, and I'll play it periodically, but I just can't do it for big stretches.
Yeah. And you know what I discovered this week actually is like that for me as well, is Magic the Gathering Arena.
Same, admittedly.
Yeah, I've even actually like have the beginnings of an infinite run with Sealed. I paid for one and I'm on my 4th, and I just don't want to play anymore.
I was also like that after the closed beta for that game as well.
Yeah. No, same here.
Yeah, because Magic, like I enjoy Magic. I love playing Magic, but Magic to me is the game that I enjoy playing in person. It's a physical card game. It's designed to be a physical card game. I think it's more enjoyable in person. When I play it digitally, it just feels like kind of hollow and annoying.
To the credit of Wizards of the Coast, however, I will say that my immediate impression of Arena after it came out of closed beta was they did so much work overhauling their client and making the usability of that client feel so crisp, even though there are definitely moments in that game where your actions are bogged down by opponents queuing up several different procs off of one another. It's so smooth to move between each of those actions. Yeah,
the engine or whatever is clearly capable of some pretty intense stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Because I mean, it's Magic, which can get like exponentially more complicated board states than anything Legends or Hearthstone is capable of. Mm-hmm. So I mean, as an engineering feat, it's great, but like it's for some reason I just don't enjoy it at all. And as far as Gwent goes, Gwent just made me feel stupid. No, I mean, I'm totally honest. Like, I know I'm not like dumb. I know I'm also not like the smartest guy in the world. But like, playing Gwent, I felt like the optimal play was like the only play every turn. Right? There was no room for like improvisation or for being intentionally like dramatic to see what would happen. It was just math. It's just math. Every single game is just math, and like that was just boring to me. Like with Legends and with Hearthstone, I think too, which is why Hearthstone is such a great game to watch. There are these moments of flourish where like it's like I'm gonna do this ridiculous thing, and I never felt like that playing Gwent.
Gwent to me feels like the final form of blackjack. That's my impression of it.
Yeah. I think that the best, like, I think that there's probably an optimal Gwent play every turn, and I don't think that is necessarily the case with Legends. I think a computer could play Gwent better than any human being.
I think that's probably fair.
But with Legends, have you played against the AI recently?
Yes, actually, just I just recently picked up my 5 aces in solo arena title, so
Yeah, there you go.
There's only 4 aces in a deck. That sounds like you're cheating.
I do. I mean, like, I have stopped playing solo arena, which is a bummer because it was my favorite way to play the game. The AI right now is not great.
needs a little work. That's okay though. It's an iterative process, which is something that I'll talk about when we get to the results.
Well, right, and I mean, like, and I think that, like, really, as I don't know. I assume you're around our age. We were born in the '80s. Yeah, our entire, like, pop culture, like, science fiction lives have been preparing us for this moment as we watch machines evolving, right? So I hate to always come back to fucking Skynet, but, like, it didn't just start off with, like, this, like, master network that was, like, running this, you know, satellites and, like, blowing people up from orbit and Judgment Day and shit. No, it took years to get to that point. Solo Arena is just like the infant Skynet, right? Pretty soon, like, it'll start killing Vivek and then taking over the world. In fact, I think I read a post by that time traveler guy, C-Spence 2099, who said that this was going to happen.
Oh, I love those posts.
Do you really?
Oof. My tastes have been challenged.
I mean, I wasn't going to say anything, but
I'm not saying anything either.
But yeah, you have poor taste if you enjoy those.
Oh.
Like, you might as well say you enjoy reading, like, the Hive Offender acid trips.
Dude, Hive Offender is the best content anyone in the Legends community makes. Yeah. Shinar says he feels like he's listening to Hive Offender. I'm actually working on a new type of video for Legends content. Just stay tuned if you're interested in a live action Hive Offender type thing.
Oh boy.
I saw the South Park episode where they were trying to teach an iPad to read. Have you seen this?
I have not, no.
It's making fun of Human Centipede. It's called Human Centipad.
Oh my god.
So they sew some people together along with an iPad.
Jeez.
Presumably something like that is on the other end of the screen when you're playing against Solo Arena.
Or somebody named Red Pillar.
Probably, dude. Derek, I need you to take over. Like, I am railroading this. This
What?
episode.
Are you sure?
Look, so we've entered the time of year where I don't have a day off until November, right? Like, you know, I work full time. I'm in grad school, and, like, I'm going to trainings all weekends and stuff. So, like, I just, like, get a little, like, slap happy sometimes when I'm not working.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
Yeah, that's the problem, though, is that you're slap happy and I'm trying not to yell at people. So why don't we hear about the survey results?
Let's do that. Let's do that. I'm sorry. Wait,
Sure thing.
wait, hold on. We have the typical stuff we didn't do yet. Tell us, Mr. Warlock, how did you get into Elder Scrolls Legends?
Okay, well, so I'm actually a day one closed beta player.
Wow.
So I saw the news at E3 2015. You know,
Wow.
that was not the best received by the in-house audience, but I saw it and I was like, okay, you know what? It's a little off, a little left field from what Bethesda normally does, but I'm about it. I'm going to give it a shot. So I went to go sign up for the beta. Like all signups like that, you sign up and you forget a few months later, but, you know, then I got the email and off I went. And the first thing that I made was a mono blue action, well, not a mage obviously because it didn't have yellow, but it was basically action mage. This was also back when Firebolt could actually hit face too, so
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
the core of it was Crystal Tower Crafter, also pre-nerf.
Yeah.
Firebolts,
Hex Mage.
Hex Mage, Cunning Ally, which was at that point generating more face damage, and then throw in some ice spikes, and like
Yeah.
that was the base of it. And
Abyssinian Navigator.
Yeah.
no, definitely not.
God damn it, dude. That's a 3-1 for 2. It's so aggro.
Yeah, but
Back then, that was too slow.
yeah, yes, it was. Back when you had 2/2 Murkwater Savage for 2, that was absolutely too slow.
Yeah, and old Rothgar Kingpin.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah. There was a time when orcs were one of the scariest things in the world, yeah. Also, the other thing I liked about old Murkwater Savage, we were just talking about this the other night. Ungolem, a lot of people forget Ungolem used to be a 2-1, and it was actually like at 2-1 entirely worth running in literally everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. I find myself getting into these conversations a lot of talking about the cards that were in closed beta, and inevitably it always goes down the same path of like, y'all remember Murkwater Savage? I do. Y'all remember Soul Rest Marshall? Sure do.
Yeah,
that's true.
8 cost Tazcad so that you could use your 3/3 Kinsman to get you the health lead, and then that went into Ring into Soul Rest, and that let you play your discounted Tazcad because Thieves Guild reduced Tazcad by 2, so he was 6, but that was exactly the right amount after Soul Rest. Like it used to be, insane.
Tempo Archer, that was the best.
Yeah.
Back when I could still hit Legend.
Oh, you and me both, brother.
All right, so shall I go into the survey results?
Yeah. So let's hear it. Let's see what we did. Also, the answer to your wife's question is Arby's.
Amazing. All right, so my face is going to vanish for a moment here while the results come up. So, bye everyone. See you in a minute. Bloop.
Hey, where'd he go? He's a warlock.
Damn.
There we go. All right, so I figured what would be the best way to cover these is to just go kind of slide by slide that I've prepared and talk about each topic as, it sparks an interest, because there are some things where it's just like, okay, sure, we get it, move on. But there are other things that I think warrant a discussion. We'll get to that, but
sweet, let's rock and roll. I have to tab out of Twitch and into Discord.
What? You mean Slay the Spire?
Get the fuck out of here. No, I'm not. I'm actually totally engaged tonight. Except I keep... Go ahead.
You're not engaged at all. You and Sandra got married like months ago, dude.
That's fair. That is true.
All right,
to clarify, because I've seen it come up in chat a few times asking, what is this survey? So about, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, it was literally the day after the new client refresh for Legends went live, I decided to launch a survey to try and get people's opinions about the usability and the aesthetic appeal of the new client. And, for better or worse, I think I got some pretty accurate data as far as that day goes. Which isn't to say that I think that these results are still representative of the Legends population. They're not wholly representative to start with, because I sampled people from various Twitch streams, which we can thank Paulo Diogo and Eolus for propagating the survey. So massive thanks to you. I know Eolus is in chat.
Helped. I shared.
Okay, and also thanks to Charmer then. I didn't know that you shared.
Yeah, you asked me to share it in the Discord, and I did so. And I think I was the first person who retweeted it as well.
You're like the first person to retweet me on everything, come to think of it.
Yeah, I know. You're really interesting. I'm not at all outside your window.
Whoa. All right, so the first thing that, I sort of covered in this report was, just a general sorry, just a second. The mic freaked out for a moment there.
I was going to say, I think your mic cut out. So is it safe to say that this is the kind of survey that's going to be akin to if Delta Airlines did a survey on September 12th?
Fuck, dude. Fuck.
Jeez. Whew.
Abort. Tide Pods. They're delicious.
Dude, Kavanaugh got confirmed. Can we not say abort?
Ah! You're right. We can't even say it anymore.
Like, let's not set off any alarms, man.
Fuck.
Oh boy.
All right, so about that survey.
I hope there's an editing process. Anyway, so just gonna, in the report, I just sort of briefly go over, who participated in the survey from a demographic perspective, which again is more representative of the people who self-selected on Reddit and Twitch, rather than the entirety of people who play Legends. Because if I had actually gotten that, there would be way more people that played on the mobile client. So I managed to get 109 people total.
That's like twice the size of the Legends player base.
Oh, twice the size of the stream's current viewership. Oof.
Fuck.
Oof.
We pick up most of our podcast viewers. I can't even finish that sentence.
We're still waiting for the rebroadcast to host us.
I'm hosting us right now.
Oh. Nothing makes me lose it like Justin losing it.
I'm just gonna start vaping. I'm gonna mute myself, guys. Good luck.
Oh boy, don't leave me alone with him. So, it's hard to focus now. Anyway, so the good news is, a nice piece of information is that compared to previous surveys that I had ran, average weekly play was about like 12 hours. It's actually gone up since then, at least comparing from sample to sample. Most of the people, not surprisingly, are mostly PC users. Then we've got a large number of mobile users as well. I was actually kind of surprised to find as many tablet users within that sample. And then just basic information from then are 91% of the sample audience male, most of them located in North America. Pretty typical.
90% male?
Yeah.
Yeah, 91 was what it said.
I think that's actually, that overrepresents females as far as the larger demographics of the game goes.
So important to mention with that statistic is that I also offered an option on the survey to identify as non-binary, or to opt to not say opt to not identify as any particular gender for anybody who maybe exploring at the time.
Fair.
So the actual numbers for that would be 91% male, 5% female, and 4% non-binary was about how it wound up.
Okay. So YouTube, a quick aside about demographics about the players of the game. YouTube collects like an intrusive amount of data on people who watch my channel. And the highest my female viewership has ever been has been 2.2%.
So all that really says, Justin, is that people are more likely, if they are women, to watch those other content creators where this survey was posted than they are to watch you.
No, I'm pretty sure actually that
No, that's not true. I see your stats. I just don't believe them.
Yeah. Did you collect data about age as well?
Yes, I did. The average age was actually about 28 years old.
That is what I get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always found that Legends as a player base skews older than several of the other card games.
I wonder why that is. Maybe it has something to do with the relative complexity of it compared to games like Hearthstone.
I've thought too it might have something to do with the fact that as an established brand, The Elder Scrolls has been around for 20 years. Yeah. A lot of Hearthstone players might not be 20 years old.
Yeah,
Sure.
I was going to say I fully think that it's because your really diehard Elder Scrolls fans are probably people who played like Morrowind and Oblivion, and that's just an older crowd, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I find all this data stuff fascinating. Unlike Charmer, like I'm not like a data guy, but like I love learning things. So like this is part of the reason I was super excited to have you on. So I'll probably have a million questions.
That's totally fine.
One of the things that I think is really interesting is that, your data said mostly from North America, but it was at like 62%. There is a part of me that wonders, since this was kind of circulated around the content creation community, if that does have an impact.
Wow.
And I say this because, you know, there's a lot of countries where their bandwidth might be different, and so they might not be like regular Twitch users, but still might be like heavy players, if that makes sense.
Sure, that's fair. I will say that based on I made the survey in Qualtrics, and Qualtrics has a function that tells you where people got the link from. Most people ended up getting it from the Reddit links. Not to discredit the wonderful work that Paulo Diogo and Eolus did, but just that's what the numbers show. So if the Twitch viewership, depending on who's streaming, impacted it, I don't think it would have impacted it that much.
I'm looking at, if you don't mind, I'm just enjoying comparing this to my own viewership data on YouTube.
Sure thing.
Let's make this more about you, Justin.
Man, I'm glad you understand how this works. So I'm not going to add up all the Central American countries, but between the United States, Canada, and Mexico, that represents 39% of my viewership.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because I get similar. I have a lot of European viewers.
I have Germany is my second most represented country.
Yeah, when I look at YouTube anyway. So that's why I was thinking that it might have just been the way this was circulated. It's interesting, though.
Yeah. I wonder if incorporating a future survey, like, you know, if either of you wanted to, if you incorporated a link to the survey in the description of one of your videos, if that would change the demographics at all. I imagine it would slightly.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Please just make sure that I do that. Or Derek actually can make sure I do that.
So I want to talk about the slide that I've got up right now, which this is one of the 4 main components that I focused on in the survey.
Yeah.
This first one is the visual design of it. So how did people feel about the overall look of the new client? And when I asked them this question, I also asked them to consider, as part of this item, this is a little dangerous to do with survey design, but I wanted them to consider multiple factors of the card art, the board art, and just the general new aesthetic, like the more galaxy look of the client. And you can kind of see there's a large block of people who, with the strongly dislike and somewhat dislike, like that's 60% of people right there. What's interesting about this one compared to the other 3 sections that I asked about is that there is still some presence on the positive end of the spectrum. So it leads me to believe that I personally really enjoy the aesthetic of the new client, and I've talked to a lot of people who have, but there were definitely a lot of, I don't know if there's a more polite way to say this, so I will say there were definitely some knee-jerk reactions on day 1 to the new aesthetic. And I then saw a post later on Reddit saying, well, it's actually kind of growing on me. So I wonder how many of those people responded this way when they would have responded the other way in the future.
Yeah, that's fair. So you started playing in day 1 of closed beta. I started playing in like May of closed beta, like May of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And by that point, like, it looked mostly like it looks now, but it was just shittier. You know what I mean? Like, remember, like that summer, like the text changed a lot, the font sizes, the number sizes in particular, I remember changing several times.
Yeah.
And there was no overlay on top of the scroll. It was just the blank scroll. And like, I remember at the time thinking it was like the greatest thing I'd ever seen. And then I watched back some old videos recently and I was like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those small changes, like totally threw me for a loop. So I think there's something to like the knee-jerk reaction, right? Like, like your first impression is not like going to be your lasting impression.
Exactly. And that's kind of why opted, after I gathered these results and just had a good hard look at them, it's like I can't really write up a full article and display these results as they are, knowing that yes, these are, assuming that my survey design was on point, these are accurate emotions for that particular point in time.
Yeah.
But these may not be the best projection for how people will, like, when the dust settles, how people will feel about it.
I think that's totally fair. I'd be super interested in this in like 30 days.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, like 38 days.
Uh-huh. I also, digging into the commentary that people left on this particular section, I wanted to figure out what people were liking a lot, what they were not so pleased with, and when people were speaking positively about the new client, there was definitely a lot of appeal for the modern look of the client, but incidentally that also ended up being the same thing that people mostly talked about when they left negative feedback too. So some liked it, some didn't. There were other comments that came up a lot that earlier today, before even getting onto the podcast, I went to go look and see, it's like, is this still an issue? Because Sparky Pants has been very busy lately ninjaing in hot fixes for various things. And one of the comments was that some of the cards now have lower resolution art, and I can kind of see that on a few of them, but I wonder how prevalent that was on day one. What was your experiences with it?
I mean, compared to day one, like I was streaming that night, and things looked considerably worse than they look now, but I couldn't really articulate how. I just know that they looked worse. I'm sorry, I know that's not useful.
No. I mean, it is useful.
Hey, Kitty.
Charmer, what was your experience like? Did you notice anything odd about the cards on day one, other than obviously they're different? I know that's a bit of a reaching question. It's like, hey, 2 weeks ago, after all these changes have happened.
I mean, my instinct is to say no because nothing is immediately jumping out at me, if that makes any sense, right? Like, I feel like if I didn't actually notice it, then I would have actually remembered noticing it. But since I didn't, I'm just gonna default to no, I guess. Right.
And like that's kind of an example too of like why I should do this again in a month or so. It's some of these effects have already, some of these attitudes have already gone extinct by now, because it's like I don't notice this anymore.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah. I also asked people about the sound design of the new client, and this included things like voiceovers or summon effects, the sounds that actions made whenever you cast them, and people seemed particularly upset in this section.
That 0.88% was actually the guy who got the voiceover job for New Ancano.
I actually wonder how much Ancano's different voiceover actually impacted these results, because I didn't write it specifically in this report, but in almost every single one of the comment boxes for what they didn't like about the sounds, almost everyone said Ancano.
That's funny. I have to admit, the new Encanos, whatever. It was kind of lame, but like it wasn't like terrible in my mind. The one that I love is the ho ho ho.
Oh my goodness!
Like I can't get enough of that shit.
And he says you're on my list when he swings too, which is just, that was an intentional Christmas pun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, before we get too far off after the graphic one, sorry, I was trying to fix the screen because chat needed their diapers changed. I wanted to ask you, because you were a closed beta player, if you remember the visceral feedback that we used to get regularly when people would come try the game for the first time and say like how bland and boring the old client was, because I do feel like there's a lot of people who played the game after a lot of the changes that Direwolf made occurred, and they never got to like see how bad it was and how many people like came and tried it and then left, because like I'm not surprised that we have like 60% of the people who said that they didn't like the visual changes, but that's because those are the people who tried it and liked it and then stuck around because it either didn't bother them or it was what they liked, right? So this is what I was saying last week. Whereas like I have very like vivid memories of like August, September, October when open beta hit, of like Reddit thread after Reddit thread of this is dull, this is bland, this is boring, why is everything so brown?
Yeah, I definitely remember seeing a lot of that feedback as well. And I kind of wonder if we're going to experience something like that again now, where the people who do enjoy this aesthetic, you know, once the client has stabilized a little bit, we've gotten a few more patches in, if we start getting an influx of people who really prefer this aesthetic over, you know, the high saturation and vividness of that Hearthstone has, where this has more of a bit like a streamlined modern look.
I will say I was a little bit jarred by somebody was trying to tell me that Nord Firebrands had a new voice line, right? They didn't say time to fight, and my hand was hovering over the uninstall button. Like I didn't even know what to do.
That's funny.
The Incano one definitely broke me. Going in for lethal on day one, and then all of a sudden, I have many important things on my mind.
So fun fact, again bringing it back to me. When I was recording the sound that would play when people subscribed to my channel on Twitch, I ultimately decided on me saying "holy shitballs," but like the first thing I recorded and then I tested for a while was me saying in the like Father Despair creepy priest voice, "I have many important things on my mind," and like Sandra heard it twice before she's like, "Justin, like delete that." Yeah.
Oh, let's all be thankful for Sandra's quality control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do with her not being there tonight, Justin. I'm a little scared for your well-being.
Yeah. Well, so I have to be at 8 o'clock. I have to be somewhere in the morning. I'm going through acupuncture training. Like I'm learning how to be an acupuncturist. Because like I don't have enough, you know, things going on. So I have to be at 8 o'clock in the morning, ready to fucking stab people with needles. It's awesome. By the way, next time I see both of you guys, free acupuncture if you want.
Listen, I've already told you this. I'm not gonna let you shiv me. I don't care what your previous experiences are like. You're not putting metal objects inside of me.
My whole life prepared me for this fucking moment, dude. I found a way to get paid for what I love.
I know you're a diabetic. I know
Yeah.
you've got a lot of experience with needles. Just not gonna let you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. Please continue. This is great. This is great. No, this really is great, right? Like you can tell if someone's a good guest, if it's going to be a good episode based on like the fun chat we're having, and like we can't stay on topic. This is how good of a guest he is.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
The difficulty is pivoting it back towards, by the way, let me talk about my survey data now. It's like, how do you segue into that? But so I'm just going to do it roughly here. Sound design. Yeah. Again, a lot of negativity really came through with the sound feedback. There were a couple of issues too that I haven't had a chance to check up on it. Again, this is probably one of the many issues that got Ninja fixed with Sparky Pants now having the capacity to update things on the fly like that. But with the mobile client, there was a major issue where if you had the game going and you tried to switch to like Spotify or something, then it just wouldn't play. Again, that's something that would have to be looked at again to see if that's even an issue anymore. Probably something that was probably a high priority on their list, and it's going to get phased out in case whenever I run the next survey again. Beyond the aesthetics and animations, there were also the animations of the new client, which, again, a huge... Sorry about that. My wife just came home. I was like, what was that noise behind me?
Sorry, I was reading chat.
There was a large chunk of people that...
Hi, Mrs. Warlock, by the way.
There were a large chunk of people who didn't feel so great about the new animations, but, you know, the reasons for that... The reasons for liking the animations mostly were because of some of the new spell animations that came in, like Firebolt, and I know the one that CVH was the most excited about was the new Lightning Bolt animation, which I'm head over heels for. It looks great. But the thing that came up the most was this feedback on picking up a card and dropping it into play. I think one person described it best when they said that it felt like the card, like somebody had put a little bit of water on the card, and when you picked it up, it would just stick to your hand. It was difficult to let go.
So I've noticed that sometimes it does stick and it's uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
It's a little awkward. And actually, I don't remember noticing that the first couple days. That seems to have gotten, in my experience anyway, worse.
So there's some stuff that like we tested in private that I can't talk about, but this is something that like was public at PAX. I'm sure other people experienced it, so I feel comfortable saying it. There was a time, so like the cards have like a more physical presence in this version of the game.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Right? Like
yeah.
It's hard to explain what I mean without an example. So when they're in your hand, when you're playing them on the board, things like that, they represent like a physical thing in the Unity engine. And
they have weight now.
They do have like weight, and I know that people are going to say like, well, the old cards like felt like they had more weight, and I understand that there's a difference between like feeling and reality, but like they exist like as an object. And one of the things that you used to be able to do was, as the cards were being drawn, so there was that draw animation, if you were fast with the mouse, you could like snatch it out of the air.
Yep.
Right? So like it would literally, like, the card would be coming up, and like as it's rolling over from like face down to face up in your hand, if you were fast, like you could snatch it. And sometimes if you did that but accidentally released your mouse and you had enough magicka to play the card, it would actually play it. Like it would drop it on the table. Now I don't know, like I have no extra insider information. I don't know if this is why they are now a little bit more sticky, because maybe they are trying to combat people accidentally playing cards. Because there's people like me, they click around, they do nervous things. Like I'm drawing on the runes on the board all the time. I could totally see somebody having like accidentally played cards because of the way these cards render. And so I don't know if that stickiness is like a safety precaution just to prevent accidents, but it is something that like I just noticed. It's interesting. It's definitely different from the old version.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the largest or the best example of what players are talking about when they say that the cards lack impact. I don't know if this has been changed recently. I didn't notice it in any of my games earlier, but legendaries in particular have a very pronounced visual introduction whenever they're played, but there's something off about the sound. I feel like there isn't a big thud anymore whenever they enter the field. And I know that definitely on day one, that was something that was very prominent. Like I would play Relentless Raider or something, and you know, her voice line would queue up. There would be the lightning crackle, and then when it came time for the card to hit the board, silence.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's on purpose or not, because you know, the old client, right? We had those like big pronounced borders, right? It almost all the cards looked like almost like they were on like a metallic plate, right?
Yeah.
So part of me wonders if like the sound effects of like when they hit the board were originally designed by Direwolf to mimic that, because they looked big and chunky is the word that I would use, right? And if you want sound to match what it looks like, you would have a thud there. Like you would expect that. And these new cards are supposed to more closely mimic cards. So again, I don't know. I haven't had personal conversations with the people about it, but it wouldn't shock me if, you know, the things that people...
Sparky Fans people?
Yeah, about the sound. Like I've had personal, but I mean about this particular thing. Like I didn't say like, hey, why is there no sound when I play the card? So...
Okay. Oh, shit. They can't see our faces. All right.
Yeah. So... I part of me wonders if that is the case here, right? Because these are supposed to feel like you're playing. Morgan said in one of the interviews, for example, like a tarot card, right? And if I drop a tarot card onto the table, it doesn't make a big thump, and it doesn't look like a big metallic frame hitting the table. So I would expect it to be different if your design philosophy is different. But again, like I didn't say. I'll be honest, like when I was playing the test client at PAX or in our closed experience and things like that, like I was more concerned with functionality than the aesthetic. Like I'll be honest, that just mattered more to me. So like I didn't notice these things.
Well, when we were playing in the, I don't know, what do you want to call it, the alpha or whatever, like we were supposed to be breaking the game, right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, that's what we did.
I think the important consideration though is that even, you know, whether it's a large thud like it used to be, or if it's some other sound, I do think that a sound needs to be there to provide feedback to the user that, hey, you've done something and the thing that you've done has consequences. Like here's your cue that you've done a thing, right?
Yeah.
And at the moment, or at the time at least, when the survey was distributed for legendaries, there wasn't that kind of feedback. There was auditorily, at least from like the initial play, and there definitely was visually, but something at the end of the audio just wasn't connecting.
I will say this is just sort of something that I've like kind of like been building up to saying like over the last like 20 minutes. I no longer, like, I have to admit, like, I had a pretty emotional reaction to, like, both the new client itself when it came out and, like, the community's response to it. I no longer have, like, any built-up energy about it. Like, I've reached a point where it's like, this is just the game we're playing now. And it doesn't bother me at all. When bugs happen that crash my game, or, like, fucking kill me, like, I'm not thrilled. Right. But I'm also like no longer in any way upset about it. I don't know. Yeah. But I'm also the kind of guy who like gets used to things pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know, again, I'm going to be parroting this throughout the night, but time will tell from the next survey.
Yeah.
How people feel.
More about the sound thing too. The more that I think about it, because I mean, you're right. There's definitely something that just like wasn't triggering. And there's a part of me that wonders how much that is just like routine and expectation. And the best way that I can try to describe what I'm saying is, have you ever like listened to a song on repeat, like, I don't know, 100 times or something, and then you hear like a live version and there's like something you're waiting to have like click, because the studio version is like the way you remember it, and then it's just not there, and like it ruffles your feathers, because like that happens with me. And it's just because like I have this expectation, right? Like I've listened to this thing for countless numbers of like minutes and hours, and like I just expect it to work this way. Or even little things like if you listen to something and like on the music video version, like if you're on YouTube or whatever, and there's like an extra sound effect because of whatever story they're trying to tell, like it throws me off. And there is a part of me that wonders like how much of that factors in as well, because for many players, they've put hundreds and hundreds of hours, if not way more, into playing this game, and you get into that rhythm, and then like you'll notice the little things even if you can't really like articulate it.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that there probably is a lot of violation of expectation that occurs when looking at new things in the new client. It's like if somebody was particularly attached to, like what we were talking about, the plate feel that cars used to have, and now suddenly this is gone for a more rustic paper look, probably going to generate some serious reactance. But even worse so when there's not even something changed, but in this case with the sound, something that's just missing.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got back from the bathroom.
That's all right. I was wondering if the microphone's cut out for a moment there.
No, you're good. You're good. Somebody says in chat that I have Stockholm syndrome. I don't know about that. I think that like a certain, I don't know. I don't know. I just like it at this point, to be honest with you. I like the way it looked.
You're wrong, Justin. You have Stockholm syndrome. Bethesda's holding you against your will and forcing you to love them. It's not at all your own free will to enjoy things.
I mean,
no, you love it. You love it now.
Wait, what?
Whoa.
I just said that I do.
That's right, you do.
There are 5 lights.
Put the lotion on the skin.
Ah, not the hose.
This is where I hold my little sign up and go, so data.
Yeah, usability.
Yeah. So this is the last major content section that I focused on in the survey, where I wanted to ask people how they felt about using the client, navigating the menus, and actually this one was the most positive one. Most people either felt neutral about it or liked it. So the thing here was that a lot of people talked about the speed of navigating through menus specifically. The game itself, there were definitely a lot of complaints about how, you know, the like we were just talking about, the stickiness of the card and how difficult it was to play. But as far as like menus of going into your settings and particularly navigating your collection menu, super fast now. And I've got to agree with that. It is so much faster to build a deck now than it used to be.
Yeah, I think it's a lot easier on mobile too. Just personally, like with the old client, there were times where like I would want a theory craft, and if I was on my phone, I would literally just type out a list and then just build it when I got home.
Yeah, I building decks on mobile was the worst part of the game.
Yeah,
hands down. Like I hated doing it and would just refuse. It's better now. I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah,
sure. And another thing that people pointed out, and this also kind of ties into the aesthetics feedback that we talked about earlier. People really liked having the new dashboard layout on the front page, where you've got your packs, your soul gems, and your gold, all nice and neatly placed up there at the top, so that you don't have to navigate into these different menus or different areas of the screen to find it.
The chat, I'm sort of following chat about this. Some people really seem to dislike the new mobile client. I could not disagree more. I feel like the new mobile client is a million times better than the old mobile client in every conceivable way.
Well, a lot of people may or may not have been able to get in though, right? Like it's hard to
Yeah.
really
Well, that is
appreciate
true.
hard to appreciate the new mobile client when like your screen was falling asleep and so your assets
Yeah.
weren't downloading, or you know what I
That is
mean?
true. I only got
Yeah.
the mobile client installed on Thursday. I was locked out until
Yeah,
then.
I'm apparently like the unicorn because I was able to download it right away. Everything updated. Like I was playing, and there's been a couple of times where like on stream, people are like, I still can't get it to download, and like I could log in and,
Yeah.
but I know that's not everyone's experience. I just didn't run into it myself. I'm lucky.
I had a similar experience as you, where it was pretty easy to install on day one for me as well. And while I was thoroughly impressed with a lot of changes that were made on the mobile client, the one thing that I have noticed, and I think has actually progressively gotten worse, I don't know if they're going to deal with this soon, is at least on the Android version of the client, the game is a massive energy hog. It will eat your battery alive.
I have noticed that. I mean, like I have I just like 3 weeks ago got a Note S9 or some shit like that. It's a really nice phone, and it fucking kills my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still on a Galaxy S7 with like a double broken screen, and my battery performance with the old client was abysmal. So I haven't.
The old one was worse. I will say the old one was worse.
I was gonna say like I just haven't noticed a difference because like it used to be bad as it was. So it's possible it's worse now. I don't know. I didn't look at metrics to like super compare. I haven't noticed a difference because my phone is not in the greatest place. So
Yeah, I mean,
do you want my old phone? I'll mail it to you. I think my old phone's nicer than the one you got now.
I mean, I'm due for an upgrade soon, but
Sweet.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to hear what I need to play Blades before I make that decision.
Ooh, excited for that.
Damn, I totally forgot about Blades. Like with the new client and Artifact and everything, like I haven't thought about Blades in a while.
Got to play the demo at E3. That was very enjoyable. Can't wait for that to come out.
Yeah. I played Blades. It's Skyrim on your phone.
Yeah, combat took a little bit of like getting used to, just because there wasn't like a super like they kind of just throw you in when you were at PAX or whatever. But once I figured it out, I was having a good time. So
yeah.
Well, that's the bulk of the survey content that I had prepared for this report. There were definitely some other sections that I asked about, including a follow-up section on the now kind of long-running Houses of Morrowind feedback that I've been running, since that's still the latest expansion that we've had. I figured it couldn't hurt to get a third time reference point for how people feel about that. The short version of that feedback is just people still like it. People actually like it more now. Yeah, numbers actually went up on that. So
I remember like finding the first time you did a thing about Morrowind fascinating. Like you asked about like power level of the different houses, right?
Oh yeah.
And it was really interesting to compare like week 1 or week 2 to week, month 3.
Yeah.
That was really fascinating.
Yeah, because initially people thought that Halalu was going to be the weakest house, and we know how that turned out.
Yeah, Halalu actually, just kind of speaking a little more broadly, like really went on a roller coaster in the last 6 months, right? From like unplayably memey kind of like deck to the deck everyone hated to now almost completely absent again.
Right.
But still really good.
And on paper, actually stronger than ever, right? Because Drain Vitality's nerf is a much bigger buff to Halalu than Haunted Manor's nerf.
Right. Another one that I'm definitely going to be watching with a keen eye is Redoran, because it's slowly but surely ticking up in favor, and I have a feeling that maybe not necessarily in the next story expansion that we're getting, but maybe in the next pack expansion, Redoran is going to spike massively. I don't know why.
I mean, veteran has 3 archetypes right now that could get you to legend, right? Like the,
Yeah.
the aggressive tempo thing, the conscription deck, and a Doomcrag variant.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm also excited for the day if they ever decide to release the other 5 potential tricolor combinations, because there's one color combination in particular that I refuse to talk about because I will say that it involves green and it involves Gentleman Jim Stacy, and I am thoroughly excited for that combination to eventually come out.
I assume you're talking about something that's going to take a back seat to the tier 1 Unite the Houses deck that comes with the other 5 houses, right?
How's that going to work?
Blue, yellow, green.
Yeah, blue, yellow, green gives you like 13 Magicka Unite.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stop it.
Yeah. All you have to do is get there.
Like, it's way worse than the Nixox. There's no turn timer you have to fight. There's no prophecies that could maybe interrupt it. There's no turbo healing yourself out of OTK range. It's literally just like, oh, I win.
Your opponent could hit your Jarl Balgruuf with a mummy or whatever that thing is, which would make it a little harder.
Well, but that's already, like, if it's in your hand, like, that's the only way that it really gets stopped anyway, right? Is because if you've drawn it, then you can't pass mage into it. But as long as you don't draw a Jarl, like, you just win. So something will have to be done about that.
Yes.
But I've been saying for a while, I think Unite the Houses is
it's a dangerous card.
One of the more problematic cards in the game.
I said that on Twitter like 3 or 4 months ago, and I think it was Christian actually who said, "Looks like Justin just lost to Unite the Houses." I was like, "God damn it, dude!"
I do agree, and I think you actually talked about this either in last week's podcast or the week before that, saying that Unite the Houses is problematic in that, you know, there's no counterplay to it. Your opponent just plays it for 3, and then that's it, right?
Yeah.
This isn't Magic where you've got counter spells that could be lined up. It's just here is my win con.
You just lose.
Yeah, I mean, it's even worse in this because you could argue like Vivek should stop it, because in most other games, like a can't trumps a can, right? But it even goes around Vivek. So
is that intentional, I wonder?
I mean, I'm about 80% that somebody asked Maricon about this when he was in a Discord or something like that. And he said that it was working as intended. I think I remember that happening. I don't know. We hung out like for a week with Josh at our late, and we probably should have asked him that.
Yeah. So I'm a little curious about the slide here, because I don't know how this Call of Duty slide made it. Like, we've been talking about card games, and now I see stuff about timing and your reflexes, and I see a scope, which I assume is like a 360 no scope. There's data required for major recommendations, and I'm not even like a lieutenant, let alone trying to apply for major. So I'm really, I want to know more about these next steps, because I'm confused at this Call of Duty nonsense.
You'll rise up someday, Charmer. Anyway, so
did rise up? Is the revolution here? I'm ready. Let's go! Woo!
Rise of the Machines.
Oh fuck.
So this is basically what I've been talking about throughout the entirety of the show tonight, is that because of when I launched this survey, I really wanted to try and get the authentic first day reaction that people had to the new client. Yep. When I was writing the survey, I didn't anticipate that the new client would launch with as many bugs as it did.
Yeah.
And you know, I love this game. I love the new client, but I will also be the first to admit there were a lot of day one bugs. So I think that with that coupled with some of the things that we were talking about earlier about, you know, things that were missing, things that were changed, and how people react just to that concept alone, regardless of what elements are missing and what elements were changed, may have skewed the results. And sure, that's fine. What I'm planning on doing is, I said here in this report that I was going to do it in mid-October, which at this point is next week. I think that it's more reasonable to do as you recommended, probably in about 30 days from now. Maybe in mid-November might actually be a better time for the survey to roll out. Timing is going to be a little difficult too, though, because depending on when Isles of Madness drops, that could incite a history effect where people are just naturally excited about the game because, wow, there's an expansion out. So that positive emotion might leak over into other aspects of the client that I ask about and skew the data that way. So
when do you think Isle of Madness is coming out?
I don't know, you said 38 days. Something would happen earlier.
I'm not going to ever use the real date for something. I'm just curious when you think it's coming out.
Well, I mean, we got the confirmation on a Bethesda stream a few weeks ago that it was definitely going to be sometime in Q4. So I'm actually going to predict probably early December. That's my prediction. So I think that if I launched the revision of this survey in mid-November, I think that's a pretty safe time to do it.
I think that early December is a good safe bet because that assumes that they bought a bunch of hardware for Black Friday.
Well, anyway, that's all the data that I had brought to talk about today, but I'm happy to field any other questions that you have about it, or any questions from chat too on the process for gathering the data, or if there was anything else.
Yeah, it's a good time to transition to the questions. We can do that.
Rock and roll. I want to say thank you very much for presenting this information. I think that it's I think it's really interesting, and I think that you do the greater community like a huge service with these surveys and things like that. A lot of people want to get out there and be personalities, and I think we could use some more people like you. So thank you.
Thank you. And it was really exciting to talk about it today, and it was a little rough at times just because, confession, I haven't actually looked at this data in about a week now, just because I've had other contracts lined up, and I've also been thinking about other endeavors. But it's good to look at, and I think it gives us a good direction to look in the future for what we can expect going forward with the new client.
Yeah, totally.
Are some of your other endeavors trying to become a Pokemon master? I can't help but notice the awesome Haunter back there.
No, actually, that belongs to Mrs. Warlock, as Justin pointed out earlier.
Well,
She's the Pokemon master of the family.
I officially like her more than you now, because not only is she a Pokemon trainer, but she has great taste in Pokemon. Ghost types are perfect for a man who embraces death like myself.
Fuck. Those are Sandra's favorite types too.
Well, when you're a Justin Larson handler.
Yeah. You gotta live kind of on the dark side of things.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta say, man, Derek, now that we're a couple episodes into season 3 of the podcast, completely arbitrarily, there's no one else I'd rather make content with than you, right? Because we balance each other out, I think, pretty perfectly.
And
so thank you.
And I just also wanted to say that I am looking forward to having Joe back.
Totally.
So we do have question number 1. And somebody wants to know, does Sparky Pants deploy stealth patches? It seems there are some major bugs fixing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they come in.
Yes.
Some of the stuff you won't even notice on your end. It's been explained that, I think CVH actually said it during one of the Bethesda streams, but in situations where it can be done server side, then they just do it server side with basically like the equivalent of rolling restarts so that you have no downtime and it just happens. There's a couple of times where on my phone I've noticed where I'll get like not a full go to the store, like do an app update, but like I'll launch the game and it'll say like assets updating and there'll be like 30 or 50.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that CVH is compiling the list and that it will just be like part of the next big patch notes thing because that was their request. There is another big patch coming as well. We don't have a date yet. CVH has not revealed it, but it is coming. They're constantly working on stuff, but they just want to get stuff like fixed and then move on to the next thing. Like they know there's a mountain of work in front of them, and they're head down trying to get it done.
We had another good question that came up in chat of when do you think that we'll get new monthly cards again, and what would we like to see?
Great question. What do you think, Arkham?
Well, if I had to guess, knowing what I do about their development process, which read is none, I think that we might get a new monthly for the new year from December transitioning into January. I think that's probably like the most generous estimate that we can get. As far as what we would like to see, I mean, we kind of already got the skeleton synergy card that was our last monthly that I really, really wanted that to work because I want skeleton sorcerer to be a thing. I want it to work and I want it to be good.
Yeah.
It's not good and it's not working and it's caused me no end of stress. But
it's not good.
What have we gotten any, now that I think about it, have we ever gotten any Archer monthly cards?
No.
So, well, stuff that is like due in the near future would be like Archer, Mage,
yeah, that's right.
Warrior. Like we got Sower, but that was a pretty long time ago.
Yeah, but Sower is huge.
Yeah, I mean it is
a powerful card.
But yeah, it's like Archer, Mage, and what is it? Battle Mage might be the other one.
Yeah.
No, we got a Battle Mage card. It was the dragon.
Oh yeah, Frostscale Dragon.
Oh yeah, I guess we did. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't. Hey, let's be honest. We didn't get a Battle Mage card.
That's true.
He's nice to see in Arena, but as far as constructed,
I actually think that Frostscale Dragon is one of the most perfectly designed monthly reward cards, and that's because I looked at that card and had like a couple different decks that I immediately had never thought about playing that I played because that card was printed. Right? And for a single card to inspire me to spend hours making new decks, I think is pretty impressive.
Does anyone happen to know offhand when, like what month, or if anybody has the client open right now, know what month that card was released on? Because I almost wonder if that card's release coincided.
It was like a week before Morrowind.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Because I was thinking, I wonder if that card's release coincided with the creation of the mid-range Battle Mage that's been so popular the last few months. But if it was before Morrowind, then no, because mid-range Battle Mage emerged like probably a good month after Morrowind did, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, like Merrick was a thing almost 2 years ago, but like that deck has been refined to what it is now, you know. Battle Mage has always had like one playable archetype and then like several aggressive variants. You know what I mean?
So to answer your question, like if we get a mage card, I would like it to be something like, you know, a shackle effect on a body, and then if you're shackling a creature that's already been shackled, banish it instead.
Ooh.
Right? You get the banish from the willpower, you get the shackle from blue.
How about a support that has like 2 charges?
I'm not doing anything supports you. you die. But specifically something to support, like, because that card, depending
support,
on the
exactly.
No. Here.
You admitted it.
That's the kind of card that, depending on the body, could support like a tempo style mage and or control style mage, right? So like it would have to be costed appropriately, but I think that it could be kind of cheeky and fun. Archer is kind of tough because it adapted this like lethal playstyle for so long, and it would be low-hanging fruit to continue to support that.
Well, you remember, I mean, well, that's because the best Archer card ever printed is Clockwork Scorpion.
I mean, I would say it's Archer's Gambit, but
Yeah, it is Archer's Gambit actually, but Clockwork Scorpion's kind of just like, I don't know. Whenever I think about playing Archer, unless I'm playing Market Archer for the lulz, it's because I want to play Clockwork Scorpion.
I still associate Archer with Rage, Unstoppable Rage.
Yeah, Clockwork Scorpion's a pretty good Rage target.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that, so like when you think about Archer, I think that I would like to see more cards that like play up mobility. One of the cool things, you know, as we kind of go down nostalgia lane, one of the cool things I miss was like pre-nerf Dune Smugglers, and like I understand why they made the change, because it was really, really good.
Before those cards were nerfed, I remember I released a video where I said that you should play them in every deck.
Yeah, because they were good.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that like Archer's Gambit ties into, and I think is fine as far as like trying to support a little bit more of it, right? Focus on more on like the mobility aspect. So I wouldn't mind seeing you know, something there, because that falls right into red and green, right? The push and pull. You know, Justin was talking about what would you want for, or like what would you cost a card that pulls an enemy creature into your lane, and I jokingly said like, oh, you mean grappling hook, but like that's the colors, right? Like agility and strength are your movement colors. So
yeah,
I think that would be like my baseline for what I would want to start with. What abilities you give there, you know, I don't know, but I think I would start with the movement mechanic.
I have a small concern. I mean, because as a guy playing the game, the movement mechanic is awesome to exploit. As a guy facing against decks that run any cards at all that move their creatures around, I'm pissed. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, it feels very unfun to play against. Like, I mean, one of the things about Legends is that, like, because there's no counterspells, discard, blah, 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 like, you never worry about, you never worry too much about your opponent interfering with your plans, right? Which, you know, has its ups and its downs. But when you go into games with that expectation, to have those expectations, you know, kind of shattered by lane change cards or by Hollow Death Priest, right, can be like a real feels bad moment.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, the original versions needed to be nerfed. Making somebody like contest your lane and then just evacuating your entire board to the other lane and continuing to push wasn't like the way to go. But I could see something more along the lines of like, maybe it's a defensive card, right? Like Silt Strider's okay, but maybe it's something that like is the reverse Dune Smuggler. It's you know, you pull one of your friendly creatures from another lane to your creature, but then like you give it guard or something, or every time you move a creature, like maybe it's a creature, when it comes into play it moves a creature, and then every time a creature moves you gain health, or you ping something, or you know, again, I would just start with movement as like the baseline, but then you just have to balance it appropriately.
Yeah,
because movement is like, let's be honest, like Legends is about creatures on the board and lanes, and being able to move between them while very powerful is also kind of like a hallmark of the game. So it's a little sad that outside of like Shadow Shift, we don't really see a lot of it.
You know what might be interesting for an Archer monthly would be a creature that is sort of like Dune Smuggler, where, you know, it has a summon effect that moves it, but then also gives it a temporary pilfer effect as well. I don't know if that would necessarily fit in with Archer's overall theme, but I don't know. I think pilfer.
The pilfer and move a lane card, the yellow with the willpower one, that should not be a willpower card.
Yeah, I almost feel like that card should be Archer.
Yeah, I agree. That card is I mean, it's not good, but I think that card is, at least during when the only set we had was the original set, I always thought that card was more playable than it looked. Feel free to make fun of me.
Maybe the Archer Monthly is a really expensive card, but when it comes into play, you move a creature and you equip it with a random item. Like it's the Rothgar Archer.
The Rothgarcher?
Right. I was setting that up, man. You stole my pun.
Thank you, buddy.
You knew exactly where I was going.
I have talked to you every day for almost 2 years now.
Yeah, Warlock broke. He's got he had some connection issues. He'll come back. Don't worry, guys.
I'm gone?
Well, on your screen, you're just...
Oh,
like,
yeah, I see that. I'm just...
Yeah. I can hear you, but visually, you've had a stroke.
Oh, boy. Let's get rid of that.
It's cool. I know acupuncture.
All right, let's see if that restores it.
Rothgarcher. It's so fucking sweet, dude.
Oh.
All right, so this is the interactive part, guys. Any kind of dumb questions you got, throw them our way. Let's do this. Riverhold Escort, Shannara, thank you. So what, while we're waiting for more questions, what is the future of Arkham Warlock's gaming experience going to be?
Well, I guess I sort of mentioned this to you guys before we got started with the podcast, but I guess now is as good a time as any to mention it. I am going to start streaming the game soon.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah, so I've kind of decided, because of where I am in my academic studies. The way it works is that, you know, I have to go through a lot of courses, and while I'm working on those courses, and afterwards, I have to complete my dissertation. Well,
Yeah.
I finished all my courses. I have no more courses left to take. It's just pure research from this point. And what happens after that is this weird thing where, if you've been in school for so long, in my case, like, I've only ever taken one semester off as a break, you know, from kindergarten all the way until this point.
Yeah.
I've always had that kind of structure to my day, and, you know, it kind of degenerates a little bit going into college, because you have, you know, certain days where you have classes, certain days you don't. Now that's all completely gone. The structure is blown out of my day, and, you know, between trying to find a job and, you know, getting what research contracts that I do get, there's a lot of chunks of time left in my day, and it's like, you know, I could do something fun and maybe semi-productive, depending on how well it goes, with that time. So I'm going to start streaming now.
That's awesome, dude. Are you going to be exclusively Legends, Variety? Like, what's the plan?
I think he's going to play competitive Tableau.
How fast can I whip up?
That's a data joke, Justin. Sorry, you're left out of that one.
That was a very jargon joke there. Tableau is a data visualization and analysis product.
Yeah, it tableaus.
Oh, it does not. It's
just an okay tool. It's just their sales team leaves much to be desired. I'll put it that way.
I've not had the chance to interact with them, so I can't really comment on that. But
see, Maroon's Dragon in chat knows what's up. Power BI greater than Tableau, but to be fair, they also have like the entire power of Microsoft behind them. So, if you haven't checked that out, I would recommend it.
I'll just leave that in a bar here. Anyway, but to answer the question, no, I won't be exclusively playing Legends. I figure at the start it will be mostly Legends, but I might also dip into Elder Scrolls Online a little bit, because I do play that quite a bit. When Artifact, the NDA is lifted and the beta officially starts, I do plan on streaming that a little bit, at least at the start, just so that people can laugh at me trying to make sense of it.
I heard you have a key.
Yeah, you know, this awesome Derek guy gave it to me.
Yeah, he sounds like an asshole.
He is.
But beyond that, mostly card games. I think I'll also maybe stream Magic the Gathering Arena for a little bit, depending on how I feel with it. I think that Wizards of the Coast is doing a good job of listening to feedback. Just recently, in fact, there's they finally I don't know how to say this.
They gave you the other 5 2-color decks.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that they succumbed to pressure, because that may not be fair to them, but they relented, and they allowed people to get the 5 other pre-constructed decks that you could potentially get at the start of your account's lifespan.
I'm never gonna get those because I'm never logging into fucking MTG Arena again.
Yeah, I'm not logging in again. I can't. I mean, never is a pretty strong word, but it would shock me if I did.
Person of Secrets. I let my ESO subscription lapse because I'm not going to be doing anything besides Legends for the next like 30 days because I'll be too busy. But in November, I'd love to. Look me up. There's actually a guild for Legends players on ESO.
So I was actually in that guild for a short bit, and I left it for a very silly reason. Admittedly, I should really request an invitation back to it. But in ESO, when you're part of a guild, you have there's 5 potential guilds that you can be a part of, and the one at the top of your list is always listed as, you know, your first guild, or G1 whenever you're typing in chat. And every time that I would try to talk to another guild that I'm very active in, I would always type in G1 to talk to them. It's like, oh, it's the Legends Guild, where no one's online right now. So
yeah.
Screaming into a vacuum.
Catching up on a couple of chat questions real quick. Somebody asked when Spell Sword will be meta or cool.
It could be meta and cool whenever you want it to be.
Whenever they print the acupuncture card for it. Somebody asked what's up with Twitch drops. They are just disabled everywhere. They come online during the official Bethesda streams, so like you can earn them if you watch that, and then they go back offline. I've heard there's like last couple of times an overlap period where even after the stream you could theoretically earn them, but like that's the gist of it. And there was one other question I saw.
And to add to that, they're temporarily disabled.
Yeah, it's temporary. They'll be back eventually, but in a different way. DTB, Dragon Tamer Blade, asked if this is going to become the Fun and Artifact podcast soon. Probably not, it sounds like. It sounds like... Well, I don't know. That's still up for debate, but...
Okay, let's just say this. We've talked quite a bit about what we're going to do with Artifact. And we've come to absolutely no fucking conclusions yet.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I would say is, for this podcast specifically, it would either be us covering both or still just Legends, and we see a lot of merit to potentially leaving it as just Legends, so I don't know there yet. But I mean, we're definitely going to do stuff for Artifact, but
yeah, there might be a fun and interactive team.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Derek.
Listen, I just need you to only play in one tournament, Justin.
Yeah.
And it's the $1 million one, and win it. Because then you can win the first tournament and then be like, all right, do you guys remember that time I won a tournament for like the next 2 years?
Yeah. Hey, man. Hey, I got nothing.
Somebody said, I want this to transition from the best Tessel podcast to the worst Artifact podcast. Joke's on you, we're also the worst Tessel podcast.
That's true. That is very true.
We are, co-champions there. We, the unified championship, whatever it is in wrestling when you have all of the belts.
I think there was a brief point in time when we were doing this podcast and Gym Class Hero was doing his podcast. I think there was probably an overlap at some point.
Yeah, there was an overlap because we were like 1 or 2 episodes into ours, and then we were guests on his, and that's when we did like card reviews.
Right.
For Skyrim.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's totally right. So yeah, for a while we were just the worst, not also the best.
Yeah.
That actually kind of makes me think about my website, because right now it's kind of the only one that has an analytics spin to it, but it's also only got one article up right now, one article and 2 archives. But so does that make it the best or the worst right now?
I mean, that Team Rankstar website basically just carries my shitposts. I'm kidding.
So Kazoo Croc actually just asked a few questions here. Are there any data to link drops in the size of the player base? I don't think that's information that we really have. Does an older crowd watch Twitch? Again, that might be something that you two could speak to. I don't know if Twitch aggregates that kind of, like, the same kind of invasive data that YouTube does. And then would Twitch viewership correlate to player base? That one, I do imagine there is some positive correlation, but that would require access to privileged data that certainly none of us would have access to.
Speak for yourself, man.
Well, okay, that's I'm an outsider in the Secret Legends cabal, so.
To be honest with you, it doesn't appear that Twitch, at least on my end as an affiliate, is collecting the amounts of data that YouTube is.
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
Like, I have access to, like, I recently got access to this YouTube Studio beta thing, and now I have even more intrusive amounts of data.
I mean, there's stuff that you can see, like, on a stream by stream basis, and it'll be like, where did your viewers come from? So, I mean, there's, like, location, platform. Did they come from other sites? Did they come from other channels, right? Like, did they come from, like, Nickel Queen or whatever? Views from outside Twitch. So, like, but it's just on a stream by stream basis, and it's not as deep as the YouTube stuff is, but it's there.
Immortal King, at 36 years old, you're about average for my viewership. My YouTube viewership skews considerably older than the crowd that I typically associate with playing computer games. To be fair, like, I'm also that age. But, like, yeah. Just to answer that question. I think my average viewership is a little over 30, actually.
That's one thing that I probably won't get into is YouTube. Is I can see myself fretting over editing a video and trying to make it perfect, and then just crumpling it up and walking away in frustration.
The most successful YouTuber that I know personally definitely doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I don't know. I've wondered, like, if I put like 10 times more effort into those videos, like into like how they look and like the editing and all that shit, like if I would see any sort of change in viewership. I actually think the answer is no. I don't know that there's any connection between the amount of effort I put into editing the videos beyond the bare minimum that I do now. Like, there are a few things that I've noticed, right? Like, videos with thumbnails get about 10 to 20% more viewers than videos that just have like my logo on them for the thumbnail. But for the most part, I can title the videos anything and edit them as poorly as like I choose to, and like the numbers stay the same.
I think what you would have to do, Justin, like if you were truly going to be like, all right, let's give this the professional editing treatment, is like if you focused on your comedy and your antics, and then you did some sort of like promotional campaign where maybe your videos were popping up in other communities, you might get people that watch you just for comedy. Because, like, let's be honest, you don't have to play a game to watch somebody do it. Like, I think you've said yourself, like, you still like watch a couple of like Magic creators and Hearthstone creators or whatever.
Yeah, I do.
Like
Because
there's
they're entertainers.
right.
Yeah.
So I think that you could do that. Now, whether or not the amount of effort required and marketing required versus the return is worth it is a different discussion. But I do think that you're capable.
I appreciate that. I mean, I actually am working on something like this. I think I've mentioned this on Twitter, and I know I've mentioned it in private to you. Like, I am actually working on like a comedy special, like which is going to have very little to do with Legends in general. It's going to be sort of like a storytelling thing that's going to be like a live action Hive Offender where I'm just telling ridiculous, untrue stories.
I want to see you record yourself at like an open mic night where you're just doing like the one man show thing. Like I want to see the equivalent of like Mike Tyson talking about his life mishaps, but the Justin Larson version, you know, where you're like on stage and you're like, these are all the funny but really sad things that happened to me, and you take people on an emotional journey, and then you're like, and now I raise pigeons.
Yeah, that would be. I've thought about doing stuff like that too. I certainly when like for instance like I spoke at 2 high schools right in the last month, and that's connected to work where I go and I talk about my experience in prison and stuff, and that part of my life comes out there quite a bit. But it's always kind of a weird line in terms of like how much of that my channel becomes and how much of the channel is just totally grounded in me playing Legends. So it's a tough like line to walk.
So chat's talking a little bit about, you know, some other content creators, you know, what they make, because I know Disguised Toast, for example, posted something about what streamers make, and you know, he's one of the top guys, so he makes good money. I actually, when he was recording for that, he was streaming it live, and I was actually watching a bit of it because I was thoroughly intrigued, and that then led to some Legends people talking about it on their Twitter feeds, which led to like Justin and CVH and myself talking about it. And just speaking from my own personal experiences, I did what I always do, Captain Derek, and I immediately went to the self-deprecating humor, and I was like, I think I've made like $500. And then they kind of like laughed, and I was like, oh, now I'm curious. So I went and I looked, and I was wrong, guys. And I'm here to admit it. I didn't give myself enough credit. I, for the last 3 years on YouTube, lifetime, have made $400. So I was only 80% as good as I thought I was when I was joking about my success. So
yeah, I mean, I saw that. I didn't know you. I didn't know you were. I mean, like I was part of the conversation. I didn't know you were gonna say it aloud to everybody else.
I mean, it's my part. So like I'll
yeah.
I'm not gonna discuss other people, but I'm more than happy with.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm more than happy with discussing.
That's just your YouTube. I mean, that doesn't account for Twitch, for what we got paid to do the casting and stuff. Like.
Oh no! I mean, absolutely.
Like all the free travel. I mean, we've spent thousands of dollars of Bethesda's money flying around the country too.
Yeah. No, all that stuff's amazing.
Yeah. And just so we're clear too, I am not disclosing how much I make.
Oh, I know that you're not.
Okay.
Listen, dude, I'm still crushing you on Twitch.
Are you?
No, not even a little bit.
I have 57 sub points.
Yeah, I know.
A button for 2 streams.
I've never had more than 39, and I don't even have that much now.
All right. We'll see.
You know, that's actually also, hi, I'm still here.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's wonderful hearing you guys talk. That actually makes me wonder what time slot that I should be streaming in, because, you know, my line of thinking is it should probably be at a time where I'm not competing with other people who already have a pretty dominant stake in the scene, but at the same time overlapping just enough to where we can help each other too, you know?
Yeah. Well, that is a good question. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't take into account anybody else's streaming schedule when I started streaming because I don't watch anybody stream. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, my best advice like would be see when Matt and Link stream and try to pick something else if you're really worried about that. But if I'm being honest, the thing that matters more than anything else is just consistency, which is like, I joke
Right.
about it, but like I self-sabotage myself because my schedule is inconsistent as all get up. You know, consistency, you know, if you can let your viewers know I'm going to be here like rain or shine at this time from this time, right? Like,
Yes.
that matters, that people show up for their entertainment if they know, like, which is really weird because we're in an age of like DVRs and stuff, right? Like live TV is
Right.
kind of like gone away, but on Twitch, that schedule matters, man. I don't know what it is about it. There's a comfort of people knowing that like, hey, this is my like nightly routine, and if I sit down and like want to eat a bowl of cereal and watch my favorite streamer, I know that they're on. Like that means a lot. So
I've noticed that in YouTube actually. Like after like 3 or 4 days in a row of releasing within an hour of the same time each day, viewership picks up regardless of the quality of the content.
yeah.
And then it continues until I fuck up the pattern.
Yeah, I try to like always schedule mine so that they're releasing at 1 p.m. my time. It doesn't happen because, like I said, my schedule is shot half the time, but that's usually my goal.
Yeah. And I'm really excited to hear that you're joining the Twitch community, frankly, because I think that like I actually, in probably like my most like just like head-on conversation, like addressing of an issue yet with those Hive offenders, this week I wrote about how like in response to all the people like doom saying the Twitch section on Reddit, like, hey, like nobody's fucking streaming the game, like that's why there are no viewers.
That's why I'm coming in right now.
Right. I mean, exactly. Like, you know, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because like I think that people need to get into it for the right reasons, which is like you love playing the game and you want to be playing with other people, basically. And as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, then like you're going to be part of the solution to the larger problem of a small Twitch section. I just stream on days that Survivor's not on. Honestly, like we just chose the days kind of at random. So.
See, Joe has the best schedule in the community. He just nailed it. He says, I usually stream at 2 p.m. every other month.
we got to get Joe back on the show. I know you're planning on replacing me with Joe. I get that. Season 4.
I want to do a combo guest with Joe. That sounds wonderful.
That would be nice. Have we ever had 2 guests on the same show?
We haven't, because I don't have an overlay for it. So, like, I know that I'm not saying that, like, we can't. I'm just saying, like, I know that we haven't done it because I don't have an overlay made for it.
That's awesome.
I want to do a live show once. Like, I know that we've done the PAX ones, and that's, like, kind of close. Yeah. I have to admit that, like, there's a part of me deep down that, like, I don't want to be successful for the sake of being successful, but I would like to be successful enough to have an excuse to just get a bunch of people from the community to get around and do what we're doing now, but in person, right?
Around
like,
the table?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the Legends Secret Cabal that night in the hotel in the lobby when we were all drinking coffee and sodas, and we did all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the greatest Legends conversations in history that's probably ever taken place in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, between the conversations we had there and the conversations that we had with people at the Master Series, it's just given me such a greater appreciation for like really getting good face-to-face time with members of the community. I
agree. We need Legends Con.
Yeah.
Actually, I was hyping that up earlier this week.
I
hear Denver's nice.
Yeah, but also New Zealand.
Yeah.
I had a similar, very positive experience, just like getting together with Legends people. When I went to E3, I got to go hang out with Ryan Chandler over at Tekken Junk, as well as CVH was there manning the floor and showing everyone the demos and stuff, and just being able to chill with them and other people that came along was a fantastic experience. And I'm trying to find some way to justify going to TwitchCon in a couple weeks. My wallet disagrees with me, but
yeah, I mean that's the reason I'm not going.
Yeah.
I do think that if there's no like Legends, like one of the things that we've heard said is that like you know, like the convention season is kind of winding down for the year, right? I think that if there's not a big League of Legends get together sometime in the spring, the community should just sort of like pick a convention and go.
Yeah.
I say this as like a guy in his 30s with a full-time job and no kids, so it's pretty easy for me to do this sort of shit.
Right.
Yeah.
But still. Because yeah, hanging out with people who play Legends is like the only better thing than like being part of a, you know, a YouTube or a Twitch or a online forum, you know, because we're all just sharing in this awesome fucking game together.
So Joe says, let's have Legends Con in New Zealand while Aeolus is at TwitchCon. That would be PAX Australia, and I am ready. If you're listening, Bethesda, I've done events for you at a couple PAXs. I'm willing to go to Australia. I have a passport now. I would love to do that while she is nowhere near.
Yeah. One of these days we will kick it with Aeolus, and it'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of awesome like Australians and New Zealanders because in the Legends community we've got like you know, Pi who frequents obviously Link, Aeolus is awesome, Gabu, Ray. I still feel like there's somebody else I'm forgetting now too. But there's a good group out there in the Pacific.
Yeah. I'd love to go to Australia someday. And New Zealand is like like the Nova Scotia of Australia? Nova Scotia is the United States.
It's like
nearby. They speak funny English.
it's like the Puerto Rico of the United States.
Puerto Rico is part of the United States.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Travel from US to Australia and New Zealand is super expensive. Sandra and I actually are already booking a trip. We're going to Mexico next year so I can meet a bunch of our family. Pretty excited about that. I haven't left the country in a long time. I actually had to. My passport was actually seized in 2010 and 2012, and I'm in the process of getting it back. So I'm really excited to do that.
What part of Mexico, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, we're gonna stay in Mexico City, but our family lives in about 100 miles to the west of Mexico City.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Just rural types.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. Like real Mexico, right? You know, like, cause like, you know, I've been to Tijuana, right? You know,
Right.
Yeah, but not, real Mexico.
So Team Defiance in chat asked, why are people streaming the game less now? Is it because of the bugs? We kind of just covered that. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, I can't speak to why other people are streaming it less. I didn't stream most of this week because I was not here. I had to travel for work. I was trying to not gouge my own eyes out. So, but Charles here has said he's going to start streaming. So that's not less, that's more. Justin recently started streaming. That's not less, that's more. I don't know.
And my numbers are pretty good. Like, there's people who want to watch people stream Legends.
Yeah, Sophie hasn't stopped. Isn't like Link still going right now? Endozoa gave us a very generous host earlier. So clearly Team Rankstar people still streaming.
Yeah, and I made a joke earlier about how Team Rankstar publishes my shitpost. Team Rankstar actually, I think, has done more, as far as organizations go, more for Legends than any other group has ever done.
Most likely, yeah. I
think that, like, it is so fucking cool that that website exists, that that community exists, that that team exists, and watching other teams sprout up after Team Rankstar was formed has been super cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's them. I think the people over at Warp Meta have done a lot for the community as well, just by making sure we have regular tournaments. Like, I want to publicly thank them because that's what this game needs, and they've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Derek. This December, or November or December, you know what you and I should do? We should host the Fun and Interactive Tournament Series.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
Go on.
Like, we can come up with some kind of interesting tournament format.
All right, I'm out.
And I'm really counting on you for this. I'm basically just I'm basically just a personality. Like I need, but we'll. This is gonna be great. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. I'm excited. Fun and interactive tournament series. We can come up with our own draft format.
I would love a draft format, like a competitive draft.
We can do this. We'll figure it out. You heard it here first, guys. Derek is coming up with this.
We'll see. I might not even be streaming by then. You don't know. I quit
What?
daily.
Yeah, that's true. Top prize is Charmer recording your voicemail message. That'd be awesome.
You don't want that. Have you been listening to this podcast?
Yeah. Hey, somebody clipped me when I was streaming the other day doing an impression of you. Did you hear that?
I didn't, but
That's pretty good. Here's basically how it went. All right, guys. So tonight we're going to be playing mid-range sorcerer. Now, I'm really excited about this list because I went from 2 siege catapults to 3. I think people are going to be very impressed with the amount of difference this makes.
hey. Let me give you some tips here, some feedback. I like where your head's at. It's a good base, but if you're really trying to capture the essence, you need to up your Worm King's agent
Worm
game.
King agents. I knew you were going to say that.
That's fair. That's fair. Look, I mean, like, I hate to say stuff like this all the time, but like, Legends has been through a lot, you know? Like, for a game that's being published by fucking Bethesda, right? You know, like, we've never had a regular content release schedule, you know? We have had less than stellar response times on bugs historically and balance changes and stuff like that. And like what we were left with is like a really core audience of like very dedicated game players who are like super interested in it, super invested, which I guess probably accounts for a large part of the like, you know, knee-jerk reaction to the new client. A lot of which was totally I think reasonable. You know, like it was full of fucking bugs. But like we're just like 6 months of stability away from being like there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I was going off on this in my Discord earlier, man. You know, for everybody who talks about, you know, the state that the client is in now, like I don't think you guys understand that. Like this game was in development for years before it was even announced. Back when Warlock signed up for the beta, right? So like it was in development for years before they even said, hey, this is coming. And then they still had more time to work on the original version. And then they did a closed beta that lasted several months. And then we had an open beta that I think a lot of people don't remember. Open beta started at the end of July of 2016, right? And we weren't full release till March of 2017, right? So you had August, September, October, November, December, all the way through March. That's 8 months of open beta that this game had. Still no mobile client. We didn't get mobile client until May, right? So that's 10 months after the game hit open beta that we even got our first mobile client, right? So like, look, I know things are dire. Like we didn't get our first content release until December. Do you know how many people started streaming this game and then left because content wasn't coming out fast enough because like Madhouse didn't come soon enough? And then when we got it, Madhouse was 10 cards. Like Fall of the Dark Brotherhood wasn't until March either. That was 8 months. We're in a content drought of 6 months. It was 8 months from open beta to Fall of the Dark Brotherhood.
That was rough.
Like there's been people saying the game is dead since before the game was even launched. Like, Justin's 100% correct. This is not even close, in my opinion anyway, to the most dire. It just feels like it because it's happening right now and it's urgent and there's a perfect storm of things. But like, things have been bad and then good and then bad and then good and then bad and then good. And Like, we're still here. Like, we'll be here until they turn the lights off. That's the
Yeah.
way that I think of it, right? Like, we'll be here till they
Yes.
turn the lights off. That's what it comes down to.
And we're nowhere close to that point.
Yeah. And
There were points like last year where I think Charmer and I know Charmer jokes about trying to quit every day. Like, he and I both talked about quitting this game last year.
Yeah, that's truth. Because it was part of a big content drought again.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're nowhere near that at this point.
Yeah.
Because we literally know what's going to happen. It's all fucking cool shit.
I think more to
Allegedly.
to Charmer's point that 38 days I'm watching. More to Charmer's point that he made in the Discord earlier too is like, yes, we're in a bad time right now, but that's okay, and it's okay to be upset about things. Just in being upset, acknowledge that you have a negative emotion, and then try to work through that and be like, what can I give back to this to positively influence this situation? What can I take from how I'm experiencing this and turn that into actionable, meaningful feedback? Because just sitting there and raging into an echo chamber isn't going to help.
Exactly. I can't believe fucking Kavanaugh is going to go on the Supreme Court.
Man,
I'm sorry.
I feel you. We're at the this is the interactive after dark part of the podcast.
Well,
right?
no, I was just laughing because I was like, is that going to be our new good times?
Look, the election's in 30 days. 31 days.
Assuming we have one, we might need to grant emergency powers. Look, I've seen Star Wars, all right? I know how you make a chancellor into an emperor.
With thunderous
North Korea throws out some threats. We say it's no time to have an election now. We need stability. Yeah. And then suddenly chancellor becomes an emperor, whatever. I can't even talk because I know that we're building a Death Star. That's the reason we have a Space Force coming. It's happening.
Space Jesus is here, wrote.
Our democracy is currently in a content drought.
Hold on, I want to continue this conversation. We should wrap up the show.
Yeah, last call for questions. We get one more. Who wants to get the last question in?
This is the worst episode of Chapo ever. Will Monk ever win attorney?
Sundays,
yeah, go ahead.
If you count Lalu as like stealth carrying Monk through, then yeah.
Yeah, that's just Monk with Ash Berserker.
Yeah, right.
That's a good question. Maybe an interesting question is, what kind of card does Monk need? Whether it's a Monk card or not, what does Monk need to be playable or better? I think you can easily hit Legend with Monk.
For sure.
I think that like a control Monk list, maybe an alter Monk list.
If they had like a card that was one Magicka and you could like upgrade it so that it gave like the whole board -2/-2.
Yeah, that actually was pretty helpful when Monk control was a thing.
Yeah. Here's the answer to the question. Will Monk ever win a tourney? The answer is yes, because it turns out the fun and interactive tournament is only Monk lineups.
Nice.
Bring all your monks. We'll see who the best monk is. Justin will dress up like a monk.
Yes.
I will cosplay as the character monk who is a germaphobe. And...
Holy shit, you are Monk. Oh my god, you are that guy. Holy shit. Also, I love that show.
Yeah. So there you go. There's your answer. One last one. I know I said one last question, but DTB asked, is a taco a sandwich? And I think that's the best question to end the podcast on.
No, that's super Eurocentric of you.
I saw an image a few days ago that was it was a D&D alignment chart with taco being a sandwich was down at Chaotic Evil. And I think it was like True Neutral was an ice cream sandwich. It's like,
So
yeah.
let me start by saying, do you either of you think a hot dog is a sandwich?
No.
No.
Really?
Not.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'm in the minority. I think hot dogs and tacos are sandwiches.
Somebody asked what the least viable class is. I mean, like, all jokes aside, but also jokes, it's Spell Sword.
Because
Really?
Yeah. I don't know on what planets any Spell Sword deck of any kind, except maybe like the nuts off of a token straw, in which case you'd be better off playing Crusader, beats a conscription deck.
And you think that Spell Sword is in a worse place than Monk?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because if you're comparing the two controlled decks, because I think Monk tokens is better than Spell Sword tokens. If you can compare the two control decks, I think access to Eclipse Baroness just pushes it way over the top.
I don't know, man. I lost to a pretty good Spell Sword Dwemer deck the other day. The person was like top 50 on the ladder with it.
Spell Sword is a great place for Dwemer.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Hey, Trader Joe agrees with me. He's actually a good player. I don't even record videos with Spell Sword control.
Well, I know what to do on day one of the stream.
Yeah, that's true. I've been playing Lich's Ascension for the last couple days.
I'm sorry.
I didn't realize that they renamed Slay the Spire.
Did they? Oh, yeah, that's true. that is true. I have been playing more Slay the Spire than anything. So Derek and I are Steam friends, so we can see what each other's playing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
This is a great show.
Happy to have been here.
Yeah, we definitely got to have you back sometime. I really hope we get to kick it at some kind of Legends event in the future. And I look forward to your stream debut, man.
Thank you. As soon as I figure out a set time for that, I'll post it up on Twitter.
Sweet.
I'll retweet it.
Yeah,
Oh,
me
boy.
too. And next time you have a survey you want disseminated, let me know, and I'll get it out to people.
Yeah, I will
Absolutely.
also inseminate your survey.
Whoa.
Yep. On that note, guys, see you on the ladder.
See you on the ladder.